sloppy dog. Shut up, go and where's sloppy dog? Off to the woods to catch groundhog. Tommy Licky, Tommy Licky. Save the heart, ain't the meat, save the heart. Best old shoestring ever was tied. Tommy Licky, Tommy Licky. Here come Grandpa Pop and his cane. Here come Grandpa Pop and his cane, swearing he need them brown old brains. Tommy Licky, Tommy Licky.
So this is the first sort of instrument that I ever made. It's a simple little fife, and I realised that it wasn't too hard. Basically, you burn this out, you put the holes in. I based it on an old Scottish fife, and then I always used to repair my own guitars and repair my own banjos. So it's a sort of a short jump to them realising. It's just a moment of clarity. Realising that you can just actually, with the simple tools and simple bits of wood and little resonators, you can make your own. And the first sort of ones that I started to make, other than just fife, was a simple biscuit tin banjo, which just one piece of wood, simple little holes that you just drive the wood through, shape it like a neck. You just have to get the angle right, so the strings make a nice little break angle there, and you can play it, and it's very simple to make, and you can see, you know, anyone can make something like that. And when you start getting into it, you get shaping the neck, and it just becomes a pleasure, and it becomes quite addictive. And then you end up, my wife likes going to car boot sales, so finding boxes and things like that, and old guitars. This one here, I just literally just put an old guitar neck onto a box. It's got a big block through it to keep it all solid, and I suppose you'd call it a cigar box guitar, but it's a bit bigger than a cigar box guitar. But yeah, what got me into it was just the fact that it was accessible and easy. You can actually do it, you know. Most people would want to go, if you want a guitar, go down to the guitar shop and buy a guitar, but you don't have to. For just a few quid you can make your own stuff. There's a fiddle that I made for a good friend of mine, and he's took this all over the place. It's made out of a wine box, just a simple wine display box, and I put another bit of wood on the back of it there, and yeah, just simple geared machine heads. It's all just obvious when you start making them, you know, how you'd go about it. A short history of the 5-string banjo. This one's a modern one, and the thing that defines it, aside from most other stringed instruments, is you have the half drone string up here. So, and it's the highest string of the instrument. That syncopated sound on it, and a lot of banjos associated with bluegrass picking and sort of modern playing sort of since the 40s, but the real roots of the banjo lie in Africa. It's an African instrument, and it came over with slavery to the Caribbean, and you're looking at more of a, this is a modern representation of it, but it would have been more like a banjo like this one, which I built recently, and it's got an animal skin head on it. I think it's goat skin. They use various different ones. No frets on there at all. And you know, back in the slavery times and in the Caribbean, they would use a gourd. They'd get a hollow out a gourd, dry out a gourd, and have the skin on there. And so you get a different sound. You'll hear the African sound of this banjo. plunky sound, and no frets, so you're sliding into the notes. It's very vocal. And this has got nylon strings on it, which it would have been gut strings originally. They're made out of usually sheep gut or something like that. And the construction of them, it's very simple. You can see from the back that it's just one bit of wood just put through the gourd or the drum or the biscuit tin, whatever you've got available. The banjo specifically, because I started off as an acoustic blues player, playing slide guitar and lap slide guitar and getting into old school sort of 20s and 30s blues, the early recordings, people like Son House and Charlie Patton and all these old blues players. But the first recordings of blues were done on guitars because they had become the prevalent instrument. But before you had people going down with recording devices, the banjo was the main. The banjo and the fiddle were the main instrument for playing blues on and playing all these old time musics, like the people from the British Isles that went over to the States from Ireland and Cornwall and all over brought their music with them, all their old these old European songs, and from the African side they brought the banjo, and those things fused with the cultures, and you've got sort of an old time banjo culture developing alongside European songs and African rhythms and things. So it's just, for me, it was very interesting music. You know, it's you can feel, you know, a lot. You know, it's got a haunting quality, you know, a mystical old time quality to it. So a lot of modern music that I find, without wanting to be too disparaging, seems a bit, you know, rigid and it's very set in its own, you know, kind of way, and you've got this sort of syncopated, beautiful tunes that come out of the banjo and the fiddles.
on me horse, sprout wings and fall. Jacket arms, my friend old. You robbed all the pockets of my silver and gold.
I started making fiddles only about a couple of years ago. A very good friend of mine, Rob George, he lent me a really nice old New Zealand made fiddle that he turned up with, and he went away on tour and he lent me this fiddle, and so I was sitting there playing it. I played a little bit of fiddle before, and I just fell in love with playing the fiddle, and I knew that I had to give him the fiddle back when he came back. So I don't have the first one that I made here with me, but my wife had a little box that I thought was kind of fiddle shaped, so I decided to make a fiddle, so I had one to play when I had to give this fiddle back, and I made it, and then I just switched to box fiddles from that point. I just liked the way it worked, liked the way it sounded, and because I'm not the greatest fiddler on the planet, when I'm busking with one of these things, it's a nice talking piece to have a cigar box fiddle. And they've got the advantage for me of being not quite as loud as a normal fiddle, so I don't annoy my wife inordinately. And this particular one is the most recent fiddle that I've made. It's a Hardanger fiddle, which is the traditional, I think it's the national instrument of Norway. And the difference is that you have the usual 4 strings on top that you bow, and it's tuned in various different tunings, unlike, you don't normally have it in standard fiddle tune. The main thing about it, I don't know if you can see here but you've got strings running underneath the strings that you bow that come off a tiny little bit of bone there, and they run underneath the fingerboard and re-emerge out the other end so you can tune them, but they run underneath, so you don't bow them, they're just tuned in sympathy with the bowed strings on top, so you get a resonant sort of cave-like sound that comes out of it. It's quite a pretty sound, and again, it's a very simple reason that I built this. I was looking at Hardanger fiddle music on it's quite famously done in the film Fargo. You can hear a bit of Hardanger fiddle played there in sort of popular culture. But if you have a look, you can find some beautiful Hardanger fiddle music. But if you want to buy a Hardanger fiddle, you'd have to get a luthier to make you one in Norway at great expense. So you can actually make, little things like this. But yeah, and I love playing this one. This is the one that I now use. You can see I've put a little pickup on it, and I use this when I'm busking and when I'm doing gigs as well. Yeah, the Hardanger fiddle, beautiful instrument. Good to me, little Liza Jane, sweetest girl you'll ever see, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane, oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, where she lives the posies grow, little Liza Jane, chickens round the kitchen door, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza